Is somebody going to come and do something then? Hi, I'm Stewart Ainsworth. I'm a landscape archaeologist. A landscape archaeologist is a person who looks at the landscape. In other words, there's lots of archaeology above ground. Everything we see around us as part of a nation's history, it's part of its evolution and development. Most people think all archaeology is below ground. That really isn't the truth. Everything you see, lumps and bumps in field, trees, wall lines, buildings, can all tell you the story about how our landscape has changed through time, so that we can see the bigger picture into which we can place all these archaeological discoveries that come from under the ground, excavations, geophysical surveys, that sort of thing. We can place those in context and see how they've influenced and shaped the landscape we see today. These are the 5 discoveries that I think have transformed archaeology. Number 5 on my list is in the Mediterranean. It's Knossos. Think of it as like a huge palace around which culture has evolved from. It's got evidence of Mediterranean culture from the Bronze Age onwards. We've got 3,000 years of different cultural identity displayed, and it's in the sunshine, it's in Crete, it's a great place to see it, but it's just got such depth of narrative associated with it and stories associated with it, and for most cultures around the world, I still think the Mediterranean is a kind of an epicentre where things have radiated out from Greece, from Rome, from Northern Africa, from the Mediterranean islands. And I always see Knossos being kind of at the centre of that. The discovery of Knossos and the interpretations that go with it are such an important part of the archaeological narrative that allows us to educate, to enthuse people about the past, and to enjoy the stories, the myths and the legends that go with it. Archaeology isn't just about hard buildings, stonework, sculptures. It's about the stories of the people and the lives that are shaped by the big, powerful dynasties that reigned in the Mediterranean. Right, number 4 on my list, as he cheats and looks down, is a site that many of you will actually have heard of. It's called Pompeii. And for many people, Pompeii is the highlight of archaeology and discovery of the buried remains of the Roman town and city there. But next door to it almost is Herculaneum. There you really see the full impact of the volcanic explosion sealing the archaeology, because you literally look down into a quarry. It's way below you, and you get such that feeling of, wow, this city has been completely blitzed by volcanic flow. Pompeii and Herculaneum together, I think they should be viewed as one in terms of the importance they've made in archaeological narratives through the generations. And now we're getting into my top 3. And at number 3 is a place called Montezuma Castle. And it's in Arizona in the United States of America. And believe me, I only discovered this myself relatively recently. Montezuma Castle isn't a castle in our traditional thinking with battlements and towers and walls. This is a vertical cliff face, and inside that cliff face are rooms, passages. There's this architecture cut into the rock, and this was all created as a series of dwellings for the Sinagua people during what we would call the medieval period, about 1100, 1200 AD. It completely changed my perception of that period. I understand the medieval period in this country, 1100, 1200 AD. The whole thing it's almost like a set dressing for a movie that you couldn't invent. It's like something from The Hobbit. And in the silver medal position is a site called Sutton Hoo in the United Kingdom. This is a wonderful site. It's the site of a royal burial of the Saxon period. It's a site that contains a number of mounds, and most famously in 2 mounds there were found the remains of boats, in which they'd be placed in these mounds with a dignitary in them and then sealed in the mounds. These are royal burials. They represent an enormous step in our culture in the UK when we have the Germanic peoples crossing the Channel, crossing the North Sea, and effectively populating the eastern side of the United Kingdom. It's got archaeology below the ground, it's got evidence from excavations, it's got a rich treasure of finds, a wonderful helmet that was found there, a royal helmet. So you've got the sagas and the stories that go with that type of event. It's got a mixture of everything and is a very pivotal site in understanding, to some extent, what makes Englishness. And I think Sutton Hoo is just the most visible representation of that cementing of the Saxon culture into our landscape and into our identity. And here we are, number one. My very, very favourite archaeological site, which I think has transformed the whole understanding and our perception of our past. Where is it? Well, a lot of you might think Stonehenge. Everybody's heard of Stonehenge around the world, but I really don't think Stonehenge cuts the mustard in terms of the top monument. It's another monument very close to Stonehenge and it's called Avebury. It's the most phenomenal monument that you could ever visit or see in terms of henges and stone circles. For me, it parks Stonehenge round the corner. It's an enormous henge, it's an enormous scale. Stonehenge is actually just a small henge with a very unusual stone circle in it. Avebury is an enormous henge with an enormous stone circle in it. And what it represents is that cementing of monuments on the landscape in a huge scale. It's one of the largest stone circles and henges you will see anywhere. I think it's a phenomenal site and it just has so much to say about planting statements in the landscape. We see archaeological monuments as representations of the past. What we see in a site like Avebury, which is well over 3,000 years old, is we see that that identity is planted with a purpose to say something. It's trying to give a message to not only people there, it's still conveying messages to us today because people interpret archaeology in different ways. It's such a phenomenal monument and it's number one, but of the 5 I've been through in my list, each of them makes an individual contribution to our understanding of the past. And without understanding our past, I really don't think we have a great deal of a future. Everything we see in our landscape is a representation of some part of our cultural history. It doesn't have to be Avebury, it doesn't have to be Knossos, it doesn't have to be Pompeii to be part of our heritage in this country, part of heritage in the States or the Mediterranean. Regardless of where you come from or what your interest in heritage or archaeology is, there are things in the landscape, and I would say this because I'm a landscape archaeologist, the beauty in the trees I can see in front of me, the beauty of the fields around me, these are all shaped by people in the past, and we should treasure the present landscape as much as we treasure the top 5 archaeological discoveries on my list.
Join Time Team on Patreon to access exclusive 3D models, masterclasses and behind-the-scenes insights.